Okay, good evening. Welcome everyone to the 11th and final meeting of the Independent Salary Commission, the very first ever. And tonight is going to really just be a wrap-up meeting. We don't have public comment. We will be doing some commission business and some working on your reports and then offering time for reflections. I probably should say that when we get to the agenda. So let's move on the way we're supposed to in this presentation. Hold on. Liam, would you do the honors of going over the Zoom logistics?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. This meeting is being recorded for later viewing. A copy of this recording will be posted on the Salary Commission website under past meetings and events. Closed captioning is available. Access to closed captioning can be accessed by clicking on the CC button on the bottom right side of your screen. We also have ASL and Spanish interpretation available at this meeting. You can access this feature through the interpretation button located on the menu controls at the bottom of your screen. Instructions on how to access the interpreters are in the chat. Commissioners, please make sure that your chat settings is set to everyone so folks listening from home today can follow along. Please note that your chat is also part of public record. Community members listening in, we still have the Zoom Q&A feature available. Feel free to submit questions or comments through there. No guarantees that all questions would be answered today, but please note that they will become part of the public meeting record. So Jamie, back to you.
Thank you, Liam. That's the last time you're going to do Zoom logistics. I'm feeling a little sentimental tonight. Okay. So as I said, here's our agenda tonight. We are going to work through 4 different meeting minutes. We will provide time during the meeting for you to kind of review them and offer any edits on the fly, and then you can approve with edits that you will agree to. Then we're gonna go over the report draft. You've all seen it. You've all been working on it. It is still in fairly the same shape as the last time you saw it. There's some additional comments we received from some coworkers. So we are going to go through it section by section and just talk through it, make sure it reflects everything that you're hoping that it does, and take your advice about what additional information you want to make sure is included. And then we're going to just spend some time offering reflections, both to each other and I think to the future Salary Commission, if you'd like to, before we say goodbye for tonight. Okay, let's do the meeting minutes first. I sent everyone the different meeting minutes, so let's take them one at a time if it works for you all. Because can everyone pull up the June 13th meeting minutes on your screen? Is that possible? I think what we should do is allocate 5 to 10 minutes of time, however long it takes you to read through them. And then when you are done, maybe you could give a thumbs up, somehow indicate that you have completed your review, and then we can talk about any edits or motion to approve. Any questions about that? This will be mighty boring for the audience, but important to wrap up your work. Welcome, Juan Carlos. Thank you for joining the meeting. It is quiet because the commissioners are reviewing the meeting minutes. We'll talk about it when they're done. Thumbs up from Commissioner Martinez. Thank you. Commissioner Cooney, thank you. Commissioner Sampson, thank you. Commissioner Medress, Commissioner Gill. Fingers, thank you.
Did you get mine?
I did not.
Wow, okay, I sent it.
Do you
Uh,
have your settings set to everyone?
Yeah, I do. Just 1 second here. Let me.
Okay, well, it's good to know. So everyone's reviewed meeting minutes for June 13th. Does anyone want to offer any edits?
Oh, it's weird. It's not going.
You can just say it out loud in the future of the
Okay,
chat.
thumbs
Okay.
up.
Perfect. I'm not hearing any edits. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Or do I, do we have any opposition to approving the meeting minutes? I guess we don't do an official motion. Any opposition? No? Okay. The meeting minutes for June 13th are approved. Thank you. If you could please review the meeting minutes for June 27th. That is when you had your listening session, so they're a little longer. Commissioner Martinez is ahead of the game. It's a good thing I was. Thumbs up from Commissioner Sampson, Cooney, Fingers, Gill. There's Johnson. Okay. I got a lot of thumbs up that said thumbs up for all. Is everyone in the same place where you feel you reviewed all of them and we can just go through them? No? Okay, Commissioner Martinez still wants to. So for June 27th, though, are there any edits? I will note, Barb, is that this is the meeting minutes where we had the public hearing where you put in names that you remember hearing, but I need to go back and confirm and double check that we have all of the names of the testifiers correct. Is that right?
That's the June 20th.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. That's June 27th. That's correct. I don't think I had the names right and I never got them off the public record. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we update that with the commissioner's approval, that would probably set the record straight.
That would be great. Actually, is that something? Well, I'll work with Liam to see if we can get that done. Either me or him, we can get that done. So we'll make sure, we'll double check to make sure the names are correct of the people who provided public testimony before we post them. Are there any additional edits or suggestions for the June 27th meeting minutes? Not seeing any. Is there any opposition to approving the June 27th meeting minutes? No opposition. They are approved. Thank you so much. July 20th. Does anyone need more time to review July 20th meeting minutes?
Amy, may I make a comment about the July 20th minutes?
Yes, please.
There is a section highlighted in yellow that I realize that I meant to go back and correct. And I didn't do that, but I have since created kind of a replacement for that section in yellow for the consideration of the commissioners. It kind of doesn't make sense. It was my hasty notes. Should I maybe put those in the chat? Is that
If you could,
acceptable,
please,
Jean?
yes. Could you publish them in the chat to everyone? That'd be great. While Barb's doing that, why don't we skip ahead to July 24th? Has everyone had a chance to review July 24th? Yes, I'm seeing nods. Is there any edits to offer for those meeting minutes? Not seeing or hearing any. Okay. Is there any opposition to approving those meeting minutes? No. Okay. July 24th is officially approved. Barb put what you're putting is the amended section, or what you would amend in the.
That's
Yeah.
correct. In the July 20th minutes that the commissioners have, that there is a section highlighted in yellow. And it's my garbled notes, and I have replaced it with an actual summary of those garbled notes in the chat. My apologies.
Okay, so we will amend the meeting minutes that you have with Barb's addition here, or replacement here. Are there any other amendments or edits that you would like to make to the meeting minutes for July 20th? No, not seeing any. Is there any opposition to approving the July 20th meeting minutes as amended? No, well, oh dang, everyone, that went a lot quicker than I thought it would. You were on it. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. We will make sure to make the amendments needed, and Liam will post them on the previous event website so they are available to the public as final drafts. Thank you very much. Okay, so now it's time to review the report. I'm actually going to just stop sharing this screen. We don't really need that presentation anymore, so you can just be asked. Although I'm going to pull up the report. Hold on a second. Okay, can everyone see this okay? Is it big enough? I tried to make it extra large. Is it big enough to see? You need it bigger? Commissioner Martinez, okay. Boop, 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 boop. Is that big enough? Okay. So, I mean, just to be clear, I'm not sure if we've made it clear before, you're not voting on a report tonight. As staff, the city of Portland will be kind of producing the report on your behalf. So what we're doing tonight is really just making sure that it reflects what you want it to reflect. We will continue to work on the report to finalize it, very likely by the end of this month. And there may be some future opportunities we'll obviously be publishing the report on the website. But there's also some discussion about whether or not there could be a council moment in the future where the district commission and the salary commission kind of both present its findings to the council. It wouldn't be an opportunity for the council to vote or provide approval of your report, because you are simply providing information to the council as an independent body. But we don't know if that is on the horizon or not, but we will certainly communicate with you if that is an opportunity and if you want to be present for that. So if you have any other questions about how the report is intended to be utilized, let me know. Our amazing graphics designer in our comms team will be putting a nice cover on this, so it'll look pretty in the end, promise. And here are the contents. So just as a general overview, I'm sure you're all aware, but this is the first time we've been able to kind of talk face to face about it. The kind of general structure of the report, based on the conversation we had at our last meeting, was to really keep all of these kind of parts and pieces in the front really simple and high level. As you've probably seen, a lot of it's bulleted or numbered. The idea is to make it as readable as possible, as summarized as possible, so more people will, read through more of it. Keep it not as dense as we did previously. But obviously there's still a lot of information that we want to kind of archive in this moment. Like, this report is also the kind of like, thing that will live on beyond you and will be provided to the future salary commission, so they understand all of the work that you did. So to really answer to that and not kind of leave out all of the really valuable information, I'm putting all of the details within the appendix. So I'm kind of viewing the appendix as the place where every shred of information about what the meetings were, what materials were provided to the public, all of that stuff would live within the table of the appendix with durable links that people can, use in the future, so that they have a full accounting of all of the materials and all of the things that you did. So that's just to answer, some questions as we go through this. If you're thinking like, why isn't there more information here? It may be that it lives within the appendix. So let's just talk about that and go through it one piece at a time. In addition, I shared the report with, a variety of coworkers, but you'll notice that there are going to be some comments from Julia Meyer, who is really our engagement manager on the transition team and one of the co-managers of the former charter commission. So her insight on the report is extremely valuable. She provided a lot of comments that I thought really I didn't really want to answer for you, so I left them on here so we can use them as points of discussion and talk through whether or not you want to make some additions or edits to this report as suggested. So this first section obviously serves as just kind of a general overview of the Salary Commission and its authority, kind of the general, who are you? What were you authorized to do? Kind of what comes next. It has been suggested that perhaps before this overview that's specific to Salary Commission, is it worth adding a previous section? I'm not sure if you can see this because I can't, on the voter approved charter amendments, to give a bit of a broader overview of like how you even came to be formed, I guess. And you can read this comment, and with this, a sentence about the why behind the Charter Commission's decision. And you can read the rest of that. So let's start with, first of all, answering kind of the question that Julia posed here, and then talking about this overview section. Does anyone feel like it would be a value add to add an additional section before the overview about the charter reform amendments? I'm seeing some head nods. Yes.
I
Commissioner
think as long
Johnson?
as
Go ahead.
the section wasn't like multi-paragraph, like one paragraph would be fine, but if it's multi-paragraph, like it's at the top of the page, it's the first thing people read, you definitely want to get into what it is about, like, quickly.
I also think that it's reflective of someone who's on the Charter Commission who has, that's what they lived and breathed, and that really wasn't our mission. And I think there's been enough crossover and confusion about sort of what the Charter Commission's, what we were tasked with versus the overall Charter Commission. I actually think it's better just to leave our report the way it is, except I would say, is the independent district, are the independent district people putting in something about the charter commission also? And if they are, then the one paragraph, which I agree with, they could be the same. But if they're not doing, look back and here's why we're doing this and everything, I don't think we need to. I think this can live on its own. There's so much information already about the charter commission and the charter that I'm not sure that it's useful, but that's fine.
So I hear there's some potential value in aligning with the district commission's report, as long as it's brief. I'm not sure what their report looks like. It could be that it's a very, very thorough, robust explanation. But I'm hearing that briefer is better if we add anything at all. Commissioner Cooney?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I like the idea of aligning with them if possible. I think this second comment from Julia maybe felt like the more important one to me, where it gives some background on why the commission was created. That's good context that I think will be helpful.
What do you think about that? So adding in more context about the purpose of, could it fit within another section perhaps, as opposed to being a preview overview?
I think it's actually like maybe even like the starting bullet would be the, independent salary commission was created based on these reasons. Like you could flip it instead of being like the charter commission proposes a salary commission, but the salary commission was created to
These things.
make sure that there's avoid real and perceived conflicts of interest, basically, like that part of as the first bullet.
That
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
I think that's good. It does mention it. We do talk about it later on, why the COLA isn't coming, but I think it's good to have that as a bullet. I think it's fine. I'm just worried about getting this thing, with too much in it. That's me. I'm an editor by nature. Less is more.
Oh, well, I can hear our comms team now applauding you, Commissioner Johnson, because they are constantly telling me to write less. So I think they would agree with you. Commissioner Martinez?
This is a great opportunity to address some of the concerns reflected in the surveys and public comments of who we were, like who are these people? We're not the politicians, right? Raising salaries. So I think that can be accomplished on very briefly, because I too agree with Commissioner Engers and Johnson and Cooney about how, one of the things I really like about the report is that it's so evidently intentionally accessible. Like you could tell this is a different kind of report. I love it. And there is part of the value, as I saw it, from the divergent and feedback that was in the disagreement. It had so much misunderstanding about who we were and our purpose and scope, that this is a good opportunity to just start with that, because that was a very common theme in the feedback.
Very true. That makes a lot of sense. So providing just additional context about, the purpose. Okay. And the value that the Salary Commission brings to. Is there anything else that you feel is missing from this overview, or that you want edited? Anything you don't like about what is included here? Make sure I have the whole, here we go, we have the whole part there. If you're good to go, we can just thumbs up it. Is-
I'd like to add that is that the members are human resource practitioners. So that is not like this was democratized, but rather there was subject matter experts.
I think that's bullet 2.
Yeah, it says HR professional. compensation.
That's right.
Is that descriptive enough, or would you like something different?
I was thinking about the first paragraph, but that is already a very explicit item. Never mind, sorry, I forgot about that one.
Is everything else good to go with this section? Okay. Seeing thumbs up. All right. Another comment that we received as we move along is, and Julie's pointed this out to me before, it's been an interesting decision point for us. The charter does not explicitly call it the Independent Salary Commission, but it does explicitly call it the Independent District Commission. And in order for us to kind of stay, you know, consistent in our communications with the public, we adopted the independent when we started doing our work. We obviously call ourselves the ISC, the Independent Salary Commission, ISC. But it is a choice for us to, you know, either be very accurate in the report and just refer to it as the Salary Commission, or keep it as the Independent Salary Commission, just for, you know, the purpose of really staying aligned with all of the kind of materials and all of that folks are going to see in the appendix and everything else that you've created through this process. It all says Independent Salary Commission. So what are your thoughts about that, Commissioner Cooney?
I think tagging on to what Commissioner Martinez was saying, I think it's that feels like an important word to include, because it indicates that this is separate from the politicians. It is, you know, it is independent. So I feel like that to me feels like an important word to include.
We could perhaps, the first time we mentioned Independent Salary Commission, we could put in parentheses like, you know, known in charter as Salary Commission, quote unquote, you know what I mean? Like just create a reference. Commissioner Johnson?
Well, I think we need to keep the word independent in there, because when this was released through the media and social media and to the public, that's what it was referred to. So if people go back and look for it, we want to make sure there's no confusion about Salary Commission versus Independent Salary Commission. And again, I think to keep this simple and accessible, creating less things with parentheses that look like legal documents in this case, it starts to look like DBA, you know, Independent Salary Commission or something. I think we can, that's what we've been, that's what we've called ourselves. That's how the press knows us. That's how people responded to our survey. I think we just need to be consistent at this point. And again, I think it's good to point that out, but I would leave it alone.
Okay, good points. Commissioner Martinez?
Thank you. I actually, this is a great place for a transition phrase, because I would like to not, to use the wording of the charter and then say, because it created the Salary Commission, it didn't create the Independent Salary Commission. And if someone goes back to, this is what actually was approved by the voters, I don't want to open that door, but it'd be a great place to say something like created the Salary Commission, also known during this work period as the Independent Salary Commission or something, and then parentheses ISC, and from now on, you know, referenced in this document.
Oh,
as-
like in this first sentence right here.
Can we just uncapitalize all of it? So it's lowercase independent and lowercase salary, lowercase commission, because it's Salary Commission, I think, throughout, not capitalized.
Yeah, that is the next question actually that Julie says is, I feel that Salary Commission should be capitalized, but not sure if that's actually the right way to do it. Is that a way to separate it where it says salary commission in capitals? You know, hereby referred to as the Independent Salary Commission, something like that? Or also known as the Independent Salary Commission in lowercase?
What is the district? What are the district? What is the independent district? Are they, again, I think we should be, try to have this line up with kind of their report. Are they capitalizing or using small case? Can we find that out? Or can you guys kind of coordinate that so we're all doing the same thing?
Of course we can. But they are definitely independent as called out in charter, or the
Mhm.
word independent is applied to their name.
Mhm.
But yes, we can see how they write it. Although you are also independent and can make your own choices.
I think there's some value to being consistent. I mean, you know, there's so many things that are confusing and complicated about this whole charter business, reform business, that if we can keep it simple in our field anyway, at least it's the public can access it easier.
It's a good point. It's definitely reminiscent of a lot of the comments we got from League of Women Voters, for example, who really felt like from a public perspective, having these two commissions, you know, publicize things differently or look very different was confusing. And
An option that I liked, I think you mentioned, like saying salary commission and then like hereafter referred to as independent salary commission. That sounded like a good option to me.
maybe I can work with our comms team to figure out a way to say it that doesn't sound like legalese, but is clear in right out of the get-go that there's a distinction between the two. Salary commission and charter, but independent to all of us.
I just double checked in the charter and it looks like salary commission is capitalized.
In the charter, yes, I think it's the official name of it, so. Okay. I assume that the district commission is probably doing something similar, capitalizing, so we can do that if everyone feels okay with it. Are there any strong feelings about whether or not it's capitalized or not capitalized? Other than I hear, you know, aligning with IDC would probably be good, but does anyone have any other perspective about that? Okay. Okay. So the next section is a high level summary about the process and the timeline. Julie makes a really good comment here, and I actually agree with it, but this definitely requires your consent, is that I think it's probably valuable to add who you are in this section. There's literally no reference to you as commissioners. Who was the Independent Salary Commission, the very first salary commission that was ever seated? Even in the appendix, those materials don't really, you know, show up other than like the meeting recordings, right? So I think that it would be valuable to add a section here that talks about you and include your bios and potentially even your pictures if you want, but definitely your names and bios. What do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
I would actually say no on the bios just because they're so inconsistent between them. I think maybe name and title and pronouns is okay for me.
It's a good point. Commissioner Johnson?
I think we could be in the appendix, and you could see appendix for detailed description of membership, each meeting, including and then put in, you know, we're on the website now with whatever that's been said about us. And again, to be consistent, that's how we live on the website. And I would just put us in the appendix. So again, we keep this shorter and not add more verbiage up front. And you know, what you pull out of what's on the website about us. And again, we appeared in all of the press stuff, our pictures and whatever information they pulled out of on the web is there. So I think it's perfectly fine to put it in the appendix and just refer to us as for a detailed description, and just insert membership in there or members.
It is unclear to me how durable the bio webpage will be in the future.
Mhm.
So it's a question that I'll have to pose to our kind of comms team and web people. It may not be that that particular page lives on forever. I don't know. Commissioner, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say you could just pull out, it doesn't, that wasn't necessarily what we would need, but you could just pull out consistent information from that, because you've already got it, and create an appendix that says members of, you know, members of membership of the committee in the appendix, and just have that information as a separate appendix that needs, I mean, it needs to be created, but you, that's
I
what
see.
I think would be better, rather than
So
putting more
providing,
information up front.
so providing what Commissioner Anger suggested, but in the appendix as opposed to in this process and timeline section. I'm seeing some nods. Any other thoughts about that? Agreement? Okay, sounds good. So let's talk about this section particularly. It hangs over a little bit here. So this is really, again, just super high level summary of the meetings with a note to go to the appendix and like see all of the actual details of it. So just some bullets about the meeting summary with a kind of calendar graphic. Just to provide another way for folks to see it at a glance. Are there any thoughts about this section? Commissioner Johnson?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my hand down, it's dropping me out of
Oh.
the, sorry, no.
Anybody else? Does that mean you love it? It's all good. I don't know. I might clean that up. This is a screenshot and I didn't realize it had these little things there. I might clean those up so the graphic is nice and tidy. Okay, so it looks like no input on that section. So public engagement summary, again, super high level. You can see the comment from Julia about adding a summary of what you heard and who you heard from. That would add a lot of information in this section. And I was definitely thinking that that could be provided for in the appendix, because not only do we have all of the kind of public comment reports that you were provided and were provided to the Republic, but we also have that presentation that kind of summarized everything that will also be in the appendix. If you really wanted it spelled out, I could produce a different report and put it in there, but what are some thoughts about this section and this comment?
When it's about who we heard from, is that the folks that we heard from during meetings, or the folks that, submitted public comment?
I think all of it, like how, yeah, everyone you heard from. And we do have kind of summary materials with all of that information.
I would say yes for the folks that actually it gave 2 minutes of testimony or were invited presenters, like a very short summary, maybe from the meeting minutes, but not the 700 plus comments. Like I absolutely read them all. And also it took a long time to process them. And I don't feel like in this part, it makes a lot of sense. Like that would be another, add it to the appendix. If people are interested, there's access to it.
Yeah, I don't think Julia's suggesting that we give a report out of what everybody said, but more of an encapsulation, a summary of how many people, that kind of stuff.
Was
Julia's-
that not added, or was that not part of this? I think there was information about.
Yeah. I think if you go
Either
down,
like, yeah, there
is-
it is.
I think
this
that's
is-
fine.
I'm fine with that.
And again, it's perfect for an appendix.
Okay. We can make sure that it is clearly labeled in the appendix.
Mhm.
What else? Any other thoughts or comments about this section?
I'm
Thumbs up?
assuming she
Oh,
doesn't,
okay.
I'm assuming that Julia Meyer doesn't realize, because she hasn't seen it, doesn't realize some of the stuff that she's suggesting we actually have in another format that works in the appendix. So maybe it's because she just doesn't know that we have all of that elsewhere available.
Oh, I think she knows. I think she's just providing, like, she's
Okay,
very experienced at kind of like doing these progress reports. And I think her perspective is often more information is better than less information. But I mean, I'm hearing this commission loud and clear, high level summary. We want people to like read through it. So yeah, I think she knows what's available, and I can definitely work with her to make sure that it's like clearly, like she thinks it's clearly spelled out in the appendix. Commissioner Martinez? Sorry.
Thank you. I think that it'd be great to put here, not necessarily a summary of what we heard, but what we learned from the feedback, right? So we learned about what were the things that most mattered to people, like what data that you used. And we learned that the public was not sure about who was making these decisions. We learned that it was important to include in our report who we are and how this is an independent body. So in that way, we're not saying, well, we learned that everybody hates us. That's not true. That's not true.
Right, that's not true.
But that is a kind, I think that it would be very valuable for folks, and it can be put in one sentence or two maximum.
isn't that part of our
Well-
recommendations though, at the end, under our conclusions? We talk about, I kind of think we covered that in the
Yes, it-
conclusions, talking
it-
about what we concluded and what we recommend going forward about that kind of information.
It is,
And that, we're not, that some of the confusion lies in so-and-so, so we recommend in our constraints and conclusions section. Like when we were talking about full-time and people were worried about these not being full-time jobs. And so I think we covered in this next section, basically. I don't know if we need to do it twice. Because this next section is really good, and it's kind of the meat and potatoes of what we keep talking about.
I hear you, and what I'm thinking is that the conclusions are different from a summary or a sense of what we heard from public engagement. If I'm a reader of this report and I read the segment on public engagement, and all I get is how many people did what, and not what did we learn from public engagement, we are opening the door for folks who may have the impression that public engagement was not influential for us, that we didn't hear them. So for me, this is what we heard and what we learned. And then in the conclusions, based on this is what we are advising for the future.
Yeah.
That's how I see it differently, but that's just me. And if others feel that that would be repetitive. I don't feel like super strongly about it, but something that I have a sensitivity about is to make sure that in the report we demonstrate how deeply we took and considered public comments and public engagement.
I think that sounds fair. And I also think that we could probably do that within a couple bullets. So not adding too much bulk, but definitely reflecting some kind of like lessons learned from that. Would that satisfy?
Which lessons specifically would you include? Because there was a lot of feedback. So I'm curious as to what you would recommend we put there as to what we learned that is not, that shows that reflects that we listen to the community without getting, because there were so many things that people gave us as feedback. So what would you include? I'm curious.
So we discussed this maybe at a co-chairs meeting. So I'm like, maybe we didn't discuss it with the whole commission. But we identified probably about 3 broad themes. One that was about who are making decisions, what is the data that you used. So basically, is what is important for the public to have in the report, have included in the report. So that's some of the things that we discussed during a co-chair meeting, and probably mentioned maybe too briefly during a commission meeting. I don't know if Commissioner Cooney and Jamie remember, but I see Commissioner Cooney's hand. So anyway, I hope that answers. It's broad, but then I could, perhaps the next few days work with Jamie to identify more concrete items.
Commissioner Cooney, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering as I'm looking through it, do we feel like that section, the public engagement summary, is that more about process as opposed to information that we got? I guess I'm just wondering that because it doesn't seem like we would necessarily be putting too much in there specifically about the information we got back. So it's kind of balancing between, how much information do we put there, not just from the survey, but also from, the people who spoke up, the online comment forums, that kind of thing, versus, trying to, I feel like the part where we can kind of get a little bit more like touchy-feely, I guess, about things, where it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we really heard from the public. We really understood this. We really feel like this was important to our constituents. And this is what we would highly recommend for the next salary commission. Like this spoke, like this came out in a theme like multiple times. We really think it's important to consider the public's opinion on this for the next commission. I'm just wondering if that would make sense under the lessons learned and future recommendations, where it's kind of, I don't know if maybe there's a little bit of humbleness there that we could use, where it's just saying like, yes, we heard you, we read through all 700 plus comments, which we so appreciate, and this is where we'd like to put a nod to it and also encourage our future commissioners to take it seriously. So that's just a thought, but I'm open to either one. I'm just thinking it through as I'm reading the way it's written right now.
We could, add a sentence at this kind of top summary or a bullet that says, refer to recommendations for more information about, feedback received or something like that, like referring them to that section. Because I think that's what I heard you say, Commissioner Cooney, that might be, we could amp that up a little bit. That might be a better place to put that type of information. Commissioner Johnson?
I think that Commissioner Cooney's point is a good one, and I think you could make it very general about the commissioners were diligent in reading all of the feedback and evaluating all the material or comments in the meetings, and keep it very general about how seriously we took the feedback and how important it was to us, but not go into specifics, because we address that at some length below. And also, we run the danger if we start talking about too many things, run the danger of leaving something out, which is also a concern. But I think a nice sentence about how we were really committed to the community engagement and hearing from the community, and gave ourselves a month really to listen and evaluate and read through the many comments and listen in meetings. And that's an important part of what we felt was one of our pillars, or one of the things that we thought was really important. And we identified early on, like at the beginning, we really were committed to. And that doesn't then duplicate something that we say later and leave anything out, which would also be a danger.
Okay, so I'm hearing loud and clear that there definitely needs to be some addition about communicating how seriously the feedback was taken, that there were potentially themes and information received that were integrated into your findings and your conclusions and your recommendations. It's still kind of up in the air where that lives and how exactly we want to reflect that, but we can work on reflecting that appropriately in the report. Happy to work with you directly, Commissioner Martinez, if that works for you, or I can offer some suggestions and send it out for some additional review from the team. Does that work? Super helpful conversation. Thank you. As Commissioner Johnson said, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. Thanks so much to Commissioner Angers for really taking the lead on putting this together. It's mostly in whole part what she sent to us probably a day after the last meeting that we had. Very much on it, very much appreciated. It kind of like, I pretty much framed the rest of the report around this central part. So I guess I just want to offer, you've all had a chance to read it, so I'm not sure we need to go through each of these bullets, but is there any information you feel is missing or needs to be revised or deleted from this section? There was a comment we received, it might have been from you, Commissioner Johnson, about the nature of this word approved salaries and whether, like what that meant. And the issue is that the CBO, the budget office, has a number that has been approved for elected officials to receive in their salary. But the mayor, as provided in this asterisk, chose not to accept a COLA. And so the numbers that are in the budget are slightly different from the actual numbers being received by some of them, which is why it was written that way.
Okay.
Did you want to offer a different way to reflect that? Okay.
No, it's just a comment.
Okay.
Should
I'm
we
just scrolling through here. Go ahead.
Should we say current budget approved? It might be my English, but I had to like read it twice because we're approving new salaries, and then it says budget approved salaries, and I was like, no, that's not it. It's like, oh, that's right, because that's the one before. So I was wondering if the current budget approved salaries. Oh, because it says current later, but
Yeah.
still.
It's confusing.
I
Okay.
found it, but I get confused by English on every 20 minutes.
Well, we want this to be accessible though. So that's a good note that this sentence isn't quite landing, so we can work on it, make sure it's a little more clear.
Yeah,
To-
maybe
We need-
start with,
I do think we need to make sure that people understand that those are the people that are in office now, and not not the people who will be in office after
Okay,
commission.
okay, we can do
After
that.
the vote in 20, after 2024 or 2025.
Okay, good notes. Trying to find, I think we added something about the percentage. Is it in here somewhere? Barb,
I-
do you remember where we put it?
I actually raised the question right there. If you go back, Jamie, and go down, there's that question about, I asked what this meant. That was one of my comments.
Yeah.
What does this sentence mean? Most Portlanders should be able to thrive on this way. I think that's somewhere in there, that was my question. But the reverse might not be true for an average household amount. I didn't understand that sentence. I read it like 3 times. I mean, I know what we're talking about, but is there a way, I'm not sure what we mean there. And is there a better way to say it?
That's why I added the comment, because I also couldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
So maybe Commissioner Angers, who wrote it, could give us a little clarity.
I'm sorry, my kid was having a meltdown. What I meant by that was that we used the single parent number because it enabled the most people to run. But if you used like an average amount versus a single parent, like, so if you picked a number like based on like, let's say 70% of the households are, X kind of households, that was a lower number. Single parents wouldn't be able to run based on that salary. But if you base it on the single parent number, then everyone can run because you're like centering the folks who face the most barriers. Does that make sense? Sorry, can you scream?
That makes sense. The sentence doesn't make
That
sense to
makes,
me.
exactly. What you just said, Commissioner Angers, makes total sense, but I don't think it's reflected in this sentence because
Yeah, you can
reverse-
totally break it up into 2 sentences. So maybe something like most Portlanders should be able to thrive on the wage for, like a single parent household, period. However, using an average household wouldn't allow those who face the most barriers to run, or something like that.
That sounded great.
Okay, this is being recorded, so I'll go back and write it down.
Okay, thank you.
I think we got the number for what percentage of the total budget it represents.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
there it
lower
is.
down. Yeah.
Did.
There it is. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to scroll past that too fast. Was there anything else about the considerations that we want to make sure to talk about? There was a lot there. I didn't want to go too fast. We're already at 7 o'clock. This has been more robust than I thought. So just know we're going a little past. I hope that's okay for everyone. Any additional thoughts about that last section? I think that means you hit it out of the park, Commissioner Angers, because there's been very few edits made since you submitted it, so nailed it. Okay, so this final decision section is really just obviously a description of what you decided. So is there any additional inputs on this? No? Thumbs up? Commissioner Martinez, are you still reviewing?
I am. I know we talked quite a bit about the $1.
Yep.
So that's the final decision is about only the salary, not any differential pay, right?
No, it says right here that they'll be eligible for the City of Portland's existing language
Language
pay differential
differential.
policy.
And then, of course, because we've already talked about the $1, then it's, okay, got it. All right,
Yeah, it's just aligning that whatever the policy is what
wonderful.
the electeds will be eligible to receive if they qualify.
That works for me. Thank you.
It also leaves it open to the possibility that the policy itself changes, the number raises, right? If we put $1 an hour, I'm afraid that confines future electeds to that amount, as opposed to just following the policy as it's written by the City of Portland.
Yeah.
Since that really was your decision, ultimately, is to align with the policy. Okay, so this is getting to the final section, lesson learned and future recommendations. You have 6 listed here. They seem to cover most things. But this is kind of your final shot at communicating to the public and to future salary commissions what you really want them to know and to take away or think about when they are reforming and reconsidering the salaries. So is there anything in here that you want to make sure is included that isn't currently included?
Can I make a quick suggestion?
Of course,
Um,
now's the time.
At the very bottom, the last number is the one, as part of its foundational documents, the ISC clearly outlines the scope and that they, or maybe it's 5, future proposals. I think 5 should be moved up under that first one where we're talking about community engagement and the zip code. So I almost think that this number 5 should be before number 1. If number 1 is the first one, because that kind of bundles the community engagement suggestions together. So.
Oh, I see, for public, okay.
Yeah, so I
Move 5 to number 1 and then number 1.
yeah,
to 2.
or
Okay.
2, which it doesn't matter to me, but it kind of flows better, I think.
Okay, great. Commissioner Cooney?
I agree with that. And I think maybe it would be better to move it to number 1 because that feels a little bit more impactful and important than the zip code comment. So I think maybe starting off a little stronger would be good.
Yeah.
Okay. That works. Any other recommendations for the future salary commissions?
I would just also, since I'm fuss about stuff like this, number 6, instead of it is also recommended, that's the passive voice. I think we recommend or the commission recommends rather
Okay.
than it's also recommended. No, it's just trivial, but everything else is not written in passive voice. So I think we should move that too, because we are the people recommending it.
Great note. Am I hearing anything else? So really after this is just the appendix.
And
yeah.
One quick thing, and I mentioned this earlier, Michael Jordan was not able to attend our first meeting, and we have that in there as meeting 1. He had a conflict. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it matters, but we had a substitute there. And also,
Shoshana, that's right.
I also put a note in there, the invited speakers discuss the charter commission. I think I also said something like charter commission members were invited, Robin Yee and Gloria Cruz were invited to speak, which identifies that they were on the charter commission rather than just talking about the charter commission. So it identifies who they are. So I don't know if that matters. to
Oh,
me.
charter commissioners, Robin Yee.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got that. Okay, we can make those changes. Good note about putting MJ there.
Well, I worked with him for years
Yeah.
over at Metro, so I know who he is, and I missed seeing him.
And you were like, he wasn't there.
yeah, where is he?
That's right. Shoshana came in his place. Good point. Okay. So this is just generally though, how it's going to look. I obviously haven't filled it all out because it's a super lot of work and I haven't had time to, but that's going to be where like most of this lives. Commissioner Martinez.
Yeah, because my understanding is that the future salary commissions will be appointed by the new elected. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is
Well,
there
no. Sorry. Well, no, actually, they're not going to be appointed by the future council. I think the future city administrator
Mhm.
will form the new salary commission.
Yeah.
Is there a value for a recommendation, because this can get very political, to speak about how we benefited from subject matter experts for the salary commission. But if it's just the administrator, all of a sudden, this just occurred to me in, recommendations for the future. What about the composition of that commission, including a very explicit, strong encouragement to look at racial and ethnic diversity and representation? Because
Oh, I see. Yeah. So the charter calls out HR professionals. I think it might actually call out that I think it might call out representation in the charter commission. I'll have to look at the language again. If it does not, then what I'm hearing is that one of the added recommendations be that there be a, serious effort to make sure that there is diversity on the commission.
It does speak
It
to that.
does.
And it talks about a range of I think ages and community representation in the language for appointing the salary commission. I think there is language around who is supposed to make up the commission, and then it's a matter of who applies for the commission, and who with those credentials applies to be appointed to the commission, because you really sort of are at a little bit at the mercy of who applies to be on the commission, who's willing to do the work.
Well, sure, but there's a lot of upfront work that can be done to recruit and,
I
encourage applicants
Yeah.
from diverse backgrounds.
I think that with a lot of respect, Commissioner Johnson, that is precisely what keeps people of color and immigrants from this work, that the recruitment is not intentional. And sometimes it's just words on a document
Yeah.
like. So anyway, just thinking, and this is not a well thought recommendation or something that it's just felt like, oh, wait, that's gonna be a different process. Is there a recommendation that we might want to include for that process? That's one. And then the other recommendation, I thought, based on some of the concerns from the public, about especially a person who was not in person, but on Zoom, saying, do you think that Portlanders don't deserve these salaries? And part of what I think is not clear is that we believe that Portlanders deserve livable wages, if not thriving wages. And I feel like that could be somewhere, if not in recommendations, or I guess it's part of the notes, but those are the things that are still lingering for me.
Is it called out in our considerations? I know there's language about.
I think number 18, number 17, you're going past 18. I think number 18, does that speak to it?
It speaks to why we want these positions to have this wages.
Could we expand on number 19 there to capture that, Commissioner Martinez? Where we're kind of saying why we were recommending using the thriving wage, and maybe we can expand that to say, like, we're wanting the most Portlanders to run for public office, and I don't know how we would word that, but I wonder if we could expand that one.
But I'm wondering what you're saying, Commissioner Martinez, is a reflection that we believe, or that you believe as a salary commission, that everyone deserves a thriving wage, not just those elected to office. Is that what you were saying? That there needs to be some language in there about?
Yeah, but I don't have a particular language. I will. Yeah, I just think that the public might be receiving this decision as we believe that politicians should have higher wages than for lenders.
Right.
And it's not one of our foundational assumptions, right? That's not what guided us. So those are just lingering thoughts, thinking about how can we emphasize on those? And if we want to emphasize on those at all, besides what is already included.
Okay.
there.
Well, if you think of some specific language or ways you want to insert that, please let me know, email me. I think we're gonna need to wrap this review up. Commissioner Cooney, did you have an additional thought?
Yeah, I just wonder if, kind of going back a little bit to what Commissioner Martinez was saying earlier, excuse me. I wonder if we could take some of that language from the charter and just include that in our recommendations, as like we recommend that the city administrator or others like seriously consider the representation based on the charter's goals, something like that.
Okay. And make intentional recruitment efforts or something like that to meet,
Yeah.
Active,
Yeah.
active
to
recruiting.
achieve the recommend. Yeah,
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
we can work on that for sure.
Thank you.
That was a lot. That was amazing. How does everyone feel? You feel, do you feel okay with this final product? Okay. There are obviously, you know, a little bit of time left. Your service ends as of August 31st, and your emails, I'm sure, will be kind of turned off after that. But if you have additional reflections you want to make sure are thought about or considered in the report, please feel free to reach out. You also have my number, so you know, this isn't necessarily the, you know, the last say. But I do think it is time for us to say our goodbyes, and I was hoping that folks had some thoughts they wanted to share with each other as kind of reflections on your experience, or, you know, anything you want to reflect for the public or future commissions, or just for yourself. Anyone like to say a few words? Commissioner Cooney.
Go and be all gushy. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I feel like every single person who's been part of this has just been so beyond amazing, like just in the information that's been brought to the table, the extra, I mean, just so much work that's been done behind the scenes for every one of these meetings. The welcoming nature. I know I'm an alternate, so I wasn't a voting member, and I just always felt so welcome by everybody, and like I still had, you know, voice in this. So thank you for that. And I've just learned so much from every single one of you. So I'm inspired and grateful, and just, yeah, so glad I got to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson.
A couple of things. I'd first like to thank you and Barb and the rest of your team for taking such good care of us. And as I said, I think in an earlier meeting, I know that wasn't necessarily going to be the outcome, but you just rose to the occasion and you guys did a great job. Second of all, also a shout out to all the rest of the people, the other commissioners. I think it proves that people who work in human resources are actually kind and decent and willing to listen, and it speaks well to the profession. And third, just since this is a public record, I would encourage people who are dissatisfied and frustrated and angry and annoyed all the time about the city that we live in and we raise our families in, to volunteer, do something, you know, be part of the change, be part of the engagement. Give up some time one night a week for 6 months or whatever it is and participate. Don't just stand on the sidelines and complain and throw rocks. And so it's a very valuable experience to be a volunteer working on behalf of a city and a county or whatever government or organization. And I think volunteerism is extremely important in this time with everything that's going on in the world. So I have to say, thank you at all.
Thank you. Lovely thoughts. Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you. Yeah, this experience has been very different from my experiences engaging in other parts of government. I've worked with Multnomah County, I've worked with Metro in different capacities, mostly as either a consultant or part of a committee or council. And I've learned a lot about the city. So getting engaged has made me feel like a stronger member of my own community, which has been an interesting outcome of this participation. So I'm tagging along to Commissioner Johnson's invitation and how ways to feel a very active part, a member of the community by engaging in this work. I've been very humbled by the amazing work of Jamie and Barb. So detailed, so supportive, attentive, responsive, relevant. I felt heard, and that means a lot to me. So thank you, you too, so much for that. And fellow commissioners, I've loved to agree and disagree, to be able to say, well, this is important to me, anybody? And allowing me to take the space that I challenged myself to take. So thank you for creating space for that, and allowing me to see the amazing and very diverse talents and perspectives from different colleagues in Portland. It's been great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very lucky to have been part of this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Getting teary. Commissioner Madras.
I'll quickly go and put down my hand. I've just been so in awe of all of you, both Jamie and Barb, and then all of the commissioners. I think I came in here thinking we just had such a specific scope, and we were gonna do it, and I have never engaged in government in this way, and so I thought it was going to be pretty I just like processed, just like you do the process and you make it happen. And I've been amazed how all of you have made the substance so meaningful to the mission at hand, and really brought the objective of getting more people to be able to run for office to be real. And then also, even as we came out strong with a very meaningful and values aligned salary, then also I've been so impressed with how this commission then integrated the feedback and stayed aligned with our values, but was also really open to hearing that we needed to go in a slightly different direction. I just learned a lot from all of you, and so thank you for that. And then huge thanks for all of you who played a co-chair role. I've been sitting here just like every meeting. There's so much work that has gone on in between meetings, and I know that you've done all that. So thank you. I know that was a lot more work than was always seen. So thank you for that. And thanks for everything you've all taught.
And all the media that they had to do was amazing. Commissioner Martinez, are you?
Sorry, I forgot. Thank you, interpreters. I've been an interpreter. Thank you so much for making sure that folks who prefer a different language can still engage in our civic experience. So thank you, interpreters, so very much. And thank you to the staff that have supported the technical aspects so that we can be in community even from sometimes from Puerto Rico, Italy. So thank you. Thank you also to folks that are sometimes backstage.
Absolutely. They've been amazing. Giving it another minute. Staff, did you want to say anything? Barb, Liam, Juan Carlos?
Yeah, I just want to say that it has been an absolute privilege and education working with all of you. I have so much respect for your perspectives. I also appreciate so much the team that has supported this process. You know, when I first found out that there was something called the Salary Commission and that I was somehow in some way responsible for something about it, I was in absolute panic when I heard the scope. I thought, there's no way this is going to happen. This is going to be a disaster. I'm going to get fired. This is just not going to happen. And I have just been so blown away by the competence and the dedication and just the humanity of everybody in this group. And yeah, and I just can't believe that you all did it and we all did it. So congratulations.
And I would just like to also add my thank you and gratitude to all of you commissioners for the incredible amount of work that you have achieved in such a short time. You know, I think that it's, you know, it was a very ambitious timeline, and you were able to work through that timeline and get to the results that we needed to achieve. You know, so this is one of the foundations of the change to a new form of government, and you have created that foundation in a really thoughtful and caring way, keeping in mind, you know, from my perspective, that equity and anti-racism and anti-oppression lens that is so important for the people in Portland, for the folks like us who live in the city, who work in the city, and who want to continue in this city and see it thrive. So thank you for all that work, and my thanks to Jamie for steering the process and facilitating it, and Barb and her team, and Liam and everybody else who have been part of this work. So thank you all.
Thank you for that. I'm seeing a lot of appreciation in the chat. Folks who have loud children at home. Totally understand that. All right, last call before I close this out. I think I'm going to take the privilege of the last word, if you will indulge me. I'd appreciate it. I learned so much about HR, y'all. I had no idea. It has been an amazing learning journey for me. So thank you so much for the expertise that you brought. And I just have to say, what an honor it has been to kind of be with you as you rose to this challenge of this truly epic moment in our city's history. You will forever be remembered as Portland's very first salary commission, and that is so cool. And it was short, but I know it wasn't easy, and I'm really inspired by how well you navigated through some really intense moments that none of us expected, but you really managed it well. And I know that public service, especially in times of change, can feel a bit thankless. So I just want you to know that on behalf of the entire transition team, who are passionately dedicated to the equitable outcomes as envisioned by the people of Portland, that you have really served people well. You have helped lay the foundation, as Juan Carlos says, for a more representative government. And we are all really very proud of you. So thank you so much for your service. And with that, I'm going to adjourn us and be on the lookout for a future call for a personal get together post commission service. All right. Thanks, everyone.